Yo, everybody. It is the TLDR podcast. We are on episode 35, I believe, because I missed last week. And according to my numbers, that seems to be what it is. Usually we go right into it, introducing all the boys, seeing how everyone's doing. But first thing first, this week, I just wanted to thank all the listeners. We've gone 35 weeks of doing this. You know, some of us have missed a few episodes. All in all, 35 weeks in, we wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys. All your support, listening to us, you know, battle on about all these different stats and sports and pop culture. You know, we just wanted to send our thanks out for all your continued support. So, you know, we're going to keep bringing the heat for you guys. We're going to keep it rolling. Speaking of heat, me and Alex had an intense fantasy hockey matchup this week. He put up 950 points and somehow still lost to me. It must be my goalie selection. I don't know. But Alex, how you doing? That was a battle.
Yeah, that was good. I think I missed a day of like editing my lineup, which probably didn't help. But I was on vacation, so I'll still take being 6-1 overall or whatever my record is. Yeah, dude, your team is on fire right now.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of worried. Like a team is too early. It's a trend, especially in hockey. Another thing, breaking news today: Albert Pujols announced this will be his last season in the MLB. James, are you nervous, anxious, sad, worried, happy? And also, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm a little tired. Started work at 7 a.m. It's going to be like that for the rest of my life. So it's going to suck. But in terms of the Albert Pujols thing, it sucks to say, but I'm happy. Like, he was a big contract, and he wasn't really producing. I don't know. I'm sure we'll get to that later, but he wasn't really producing as of late. In the time of September, I think he played like 3 games or something. Like, it's going to be nice to, you know, pave the way for new guys like Jared Walsh, which, again, we'll talk about later. But, yeah, Albert Pujols is a great first-ballot Hall of Famer, but I'm glad he's going to retire.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing he's done is just get them a bunch of hits and home runs, but probably not when it mattered. It was like already when they were out of the playoffs, which has been like the story of the Angels. We'll get to them later. I don't want to ramble on about them too much yet. Tyler, the Kings are buzzing. They are currently in a playoff spot. Don't blink too fast. Let's hope they keep it up. Are you nervous, anxious, happy, sad? And also, how are you doing?
About the Kings, I'm very happy, surprisingly happy. We'll talk more about that in trading segment. But overall, doing great. The college baseball season kicked off this weekend, so that was super fun. So we're out full grind mode. We'll be at UCLA tomorrow night. So looking forward to that one. So yeah, that was pretty much my weekend, was spending it with LMU baseball. So super happy that the college baseball season is back. So it feels good to have some live baseball back. So yeah, very, very happy about that.
I was like, why are you bringing this up? And then I was like, oh yeah, fuck, I forgot. That's your job now. Yeah, congrats on that. Late congratulations.
Thanks, bud.
Last but not least, Tradon, I see it, from what it looks like, Lake Tahoe behind you, not melted. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Speaking of Tahoe, the NHL was in Lake Tahoe, and so was I. Fiance and I went up there and skied a bit with her family. And it was interesting because we went the same weekend as the NHL had their 2 games, it was pretty cool. I mean, there was no spectators, so we weren't really able to see much, but still, it was still a pretty cool spectacle. Yeah, overall, it was a great weekend.
So were you able to see the arena like from like the top of a mountain or something?
Yeah. So the last day on our last run, we were able to see it in the distance, but it was still pretty far away. I mean, you could tell it was there, but you couldn't make out much. But it definitely, it was very cool. Right along the side, the beach there, just a beautiful backdrop.
Nice. That's cool. I didn't even realize you were there. Let's get right into it, Tradon. NHL, lots of things going on. You always got to get some good things to talk about. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, man. Well, I got to start out with the fantasy hockey, as you guys already kind of alluded to. I beat Mike today this week with 999 points, second in the league this week behind you, Eric. That was an incredible win. James, you won your three wins in a row now. And let's see, Eric, you obviously beat Alex, and Tyler, you lost to Jess, my dude.
Yeah.
You lost to Jess.
Brutal.
Damn, bro.
Brutal.
Damn.
Actually,
The worst
you
week.
had the worst point total.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It was
congratulations on
Embarrassing.
brutal week.
no,
No,
but
I'm
still,
kidding.
it's not a big deal because
But I beat you in fantasy basketball, so I got
you
that
did.
one.
You did. Yeah, I had a bad week there.
Yeah.
But Eric still leads Actually, Eric and Alex are both tied at 5-1. James, you're 4-2, along with Tyler, and I am 3-3. So the TLDR boys are leading the pack right now, as it should be. So anyway, moving on. We talked about the Tahoe games. There's a little bit of a interesting, dilemma there with the sun started melting the ice in their morning games or in their afternoon or their early afternoon games. So they had to kind of switch around the times a little bit. But nonetheless, they were still very, very fun to watch, in my opinion. It's just always cool to see hockey played outside. That's where it kind of originated. And it definitely had a Mystery Alaska vibe. Did anybody else did you guys catch the games at all?
I
saw the first period, and then
Yeah.
I realized it stopped until midnight or something like crazy.
Yeah, it started back at 9 our time.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody has a chance to see it on TV, if there's a replay, it's just really cool to see. Even just the highlights, it's just really cool to see an outdoor game, especially with that backdrop in that first period, or in the second game. The late evening had a nice sunset. It looked really, really cool. But moving on to the nitty gritty this week, Sidney Crosby was honored by both the Penguins and the NHL this week for his 1,000th game played, which is a huge accomplishment in the NHL. Anytime that a player gets to 1,000 games, it's a huge deal. And an even bigger deal is this, Sidney Crosby became the first Penguin in franchise history to play his 1,000th game in Pittsburgh. Like no player's ever done that. A lot of players play their 1,000th game over the course of a couple teams. Sidney's been there the whole time, so that's a huge accomplishment and milestone in and of itself. Alex, I told you to kind of look up Sidney Crosby's impact on the NHL. I mean, we could go into his stats, and I'll go in a bit, but really, we kind of look at Sidney Crosby as an ambassador for this. And in your mind, what makes him such a great ambassador for the sport of hockey?
Yeah, I mean, okay, the fact that he's the first Penguin to do it is kind of astounding, like with how much history that franchise has. Yeah. Like, it's kind of nuts. But yeah, Sidney Crosby, he came up as, one of the most touted prospects of his age range. And other than the injuries, he's lived up to it. And he's a huge face he's probably been the face of hockey in the last decade, I'd say. Maybe like him and Ovi. And, I was texting with my buddy who's a big Penguins fan, and I was talking to him about Sid, and he put it in a really good point, is like the Sid Ovechkin rivalry kind of kept hockey alive. They had some strife, they had, all this turmoil within the league, but it reminded him, and now that he made that comparison, of the Magic Bird rivalry in the 80s in the NBA. When the NBA was struggling, and kind of Sid and Ovi, these epic battles they've had, both future first ballot Hall of Famers. And Sid's done so much for both, in Pittsburgh, in Canada. I mean, he's had, for the Olympics, he had, one of the biggest Olympic gold medal goals of all time. Heartbreaking for us Americans, but yeah, for the Canadians, can't deny it was pretty awesome. But yeah, Sid's been a huge part of the game. 1,000 games, congrats to him, and it feels like he's still got a long way to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I totally with you there. I mean, Sidney Crosby is just, like you said, the face of the league. The guy has 3 cups, 2 gold medals, I believe, and then one absolutely, that last gold medal of his was just, I guess that would have been his first gold medal, and was absolutely incredible. Look, he has 468 goals, 810 assists for 1,278 points. Over 1,000 games. That's truly astonishing. But what I think really kind of sets him apart over really a lot of players in the NHL is his availability to everybody, from media to fans to pretty much everything. I mean, this guy will wait after away games to talk to media on every single game. And you don't see that with all these players. He even gets asked, and told, Sid, you don't have to do this every game. And he says, well, I'm in the position that I am because, and that's that's just all part of it. Like if you're the face of the franchise, you're in front of a camera, you're talking with fans, engaging with fans, engaging with media. And that's what really makes him such a big part of hockey as a whole. And at one point when he came in, he was a bit Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. I mean, that says something. Especially because Pittsburgh wasn't doing very well then, and neither was the Penguins. And then he came in and just completely turned the franchise around. So he's definitely one of the greatest ambassadors to ever play the game, next to Wayne Gretzky himself. And honestly, before I get into talking about Connor McDavid again, Connor McDavid, please learn from Sidney Crosby's just way he engages with the media. I think that's something that Connor has a little bit of work to do, if I may say so myself. But yeah, bang on Alex. He's just a great ambassador, and congratulations on 1,000 games. Moving on to Connor McDavid. I know that I talked about him a couple weeks ago, and I know that I seem like a big homer for the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid in general, but Connor McDavid just tied Sidney Crosby as the 8th fastest to reach 500 points, reaching it in 369 games. Oh, and by the way, the 7 players that are in front of those guys, I mean, they're back in an era when you would shoot on a goaltender and 8 times out of 10 it's going in. There was no goaltending, no defense. So these two are really the ones that do it and have done it in this era where goal scoring comes at a premium, points come at a premium, and so that is just an amazing feat. He's having such an incredible offseason. Saturday's game, I don't know if anybody saw that. You need to watch some highlights. The unbelievable game. One of the best games I've ever seen him play in a long time. But while he is having an incredible offensive season, his defensive game has changed, and it definitely shows in a positive light. And it's something that I haven't even seen before, and a lot of Oilers fans and overall NHL fans haven't seen before. So James, in light of that, we look at the offensive numbers, but his defensive numbers are actually completely changing. Do you think that Connor McDavid's evolving into a holistic two-way player, or is this something that is just a one-time deal?
No, I definitely think it's evolving, and you see with every single great player there is ever, right? If you look at Mike Trout came into the league and was a great offensive player. And he's the first person to tell you that his reading off the bat with the baseball wasn't that great. So he spent like 4 or 5 off seasons doing that, and all of a sudden he's one of the best outfielders defensively to play the game as well. Same thing with Kobe. I mean, he had great offensive numbers coming in, but he relied too much on his athleticism. And it's like he started working on his footwork because that's what sucked. And then all of a sudden he was that much better. When great players are great at one thing and they're just obviously the best player in that position for that one thing, they're going to look to something else and work on that, because that's what makes them great, is their ability to constantly change their game, to improve their game, to be better than they were before. Good, better, best, never rest until it is better, and your better is your best. And that's exactly what he lives by. That was a quote by Tim Duncan, by the way. Connor McDavid will continue to evolve, and he's going to continue to get better and better each and every year. He's going to find something, and it may not show on the ice right away. It could just be this minuscule thing that maybe the way he flicks his wrist. It's not going to show right away, but then it just continues to add to his game to make him that much better. We haven't seen Connor McDavid regress at all. The only times his numbers have gone down is when he's been injured, and that's really not his fault. For the most part, when he's healthy, Connor McDavid gets better and better each and every year. So I think that this is just another step to his greatness. Connor McDavid's going to be the best to ever do it.
Yeah. You said it. You said it perfectly. I look at stats, and his Corsi stats are the best that we've ever seen. So defensively, he's obviously helping his team on that side. He makes a plus 2.37. He's a 0.37 in grade A chances for per 15 minutes. He's never been close to that. He's always been on the bad end of the he's always made good contributions for, but he's always been on the bad side of the major mistakes against. And he's not this year. He's on the right side of his man in the defensive zone. And it's something that I've noticed. He's not cheating ever seen him, and is getting even more points than he was even prior to that. So he is learning. And his faceoffs have improved huge. He's always had a problem with that, and that alone is a huge stat that as a centerman you need to keep track of. So I agree with you, James. He is evolving. He's going to continue to evolve, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but if he can continue this defensive game and he becomes something that at least a little bit of from like an Andre Kopitar, we could see this guy win a Selke and win the Hart and win the Ted Lin. I mean, it's crazy. This guy could just walk away with all the hardware. But really all he really cares about is winning a Stanley Cup, and it's obviously showing. So moving on to the West, the Honda West, your guys as LA Kings have won 5 in a row now and have gone 5-4-1 in their last 10, and sit the 5. Actually, it dated. Last time I checked, it was a 5.31 point percentage. It's probably closer to 6 now. Look, Tyler, they are the Kings are turning things around. I mean, they had a rough start. Admittedly, the first 12 games were a little bit shaky, but they have really turned things around. Do you think this is sustainable? And do you think this is going to be a surprise team of the Honda West?
It could be. They're playing really, really well right now. Before they went on this 5-game winning streak, they're on a 4-game losing streak. So I think we're seeing this team definitely streaky. But right now they're right in the ups. And by the way, they're a 5.59 win percentage.
There you go.
Updated after today. They also have the second most goals scored in the division, which I don't know if that's ever happened in Kings history. And they got a little closer tonight because the team that's in first in that division are the St. Louis Blues, and they shut them out tonight. So for me, I think this streak kind of started actually in their February 9th overtime loss to the Sharks. They had lost 4 in a row going into that game, did not look good. But that game, they were down by 2 goals early. They came back, took the lead 3-2. They ended up giving up a goal late in the third and ended up losing in overtime. But I think something clicked in that game. I think they found a way to grind back and bounce back from a rough start. And I think we've seen that accumulate since then. They beat the Sharks 2 nights later, 6-2, and they've gone on this 5-game winning streak since. And they've looked really good. I think these next few weeks they're going to play the Blues 5 more times this season. And they're going to play the Knights and the Avs 2 more times as well. So winning those games are going to be huge. Those teams in front of them. I think the road to the 4th spot is not that much of a stretch considering how close it is and how really no other team has really kind of taken over as that dominant 4th team. So I think it's more possible. It's crazy how quickly standings can change in hockey. And it was like last week we were talking about the West, and I didn't even mention the Kings as being a 4th team. And here we are a week later, and shit, man, it could happen. I mean, their stars are shining. Kopi, Doughty, and Brown are top 3 in points, and their young stars are starting to shine. I mean, Kempe has 10 points. Velarde is heating up. He's got, I think, points in his last 4 games. Matt Roy has got a +4. Cal Peterson's looking pretty good. He's got a 2.96 save percentage and a 2.43 goals against. I mean, this team's got a good mix of veterans and a good mix of young guys that are starting to finally show their potential. I don't know, man. It is a really small sample size, and we'll have to see if they can sustain it. But I mean, I'm riding the high right now. So if they can keep playing like they have been, and they've looked very good these last few games. They've looked like a playoff contending team. And with the season that is short, man, and with, like I said, with that division, with no team really taking over that fourth spot, go Kings, go! Let's do it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I agree. Whenever you beat one of the top 3 teams in your division, and like you said, we know who the top 3 are going to be. It's that fourth spot that it's really fighting for. And when you beat them 3-0, that says a lot. And you play them again 5 more times, and who knows? I mean, if you go on a huge run, you might be the 3rd team in the division at this rate. What's crazy is Kopitar is playing fantastic. Dustin Brown's resurging, which is great to see. Seems like there's a little bit of a goaltender battle now, which is pretty good to see as well. It's always good when you have goaltenders start to, rise each other up and because you're getting you gain the fruits of that labor there. But like you said, and like you said, it's crazy how the standings change in hockey. Well, it's even more magnified because every game's a 4-point night. If you guys follow my power rankings, I say that multiple times. Every game is so important because what you guys just accomplished today is another 4-point night, and you're going to play Arizona for another 4-point night. And then you play, that those rack up, and who knows, we might see them in my top 16. They were this close to being in my top 16 this last week. And hell, if they gain at least, 1 more or 2 more wins this week, you'll see them in there for sure. So I love to see that. So congratulations to the Kings on that one. Keep it up. And last but not least, the NHL is seeing a league average of 0.906 save percentage. That's the worst we have seen since the 9-5 figure in the 2006-2007 season. Also, OT games are up. 26% of games are going to extra time this year. I mean, this is kind of crazy. Oh, sorry, James, you had a question on the last one.
Yeah. So just for Tyler real fast, they went on a 4-game losing streak and went on a 5-game win streak. What changed? Like, what's a tangible difference that clicked with them?
Yeah, it's hard to say as from a fan's perspective, but like I said, there's something that happened. I was watching that game where they had that overtime loss to the Sharks, and they were down 2-0, and it kind of felt like, oh, here we go again. They're gonna lose this game, and I don't know. I don't know if it was something that the coach said during the intermission or something that said, hey guys, like we need to step it up, or we need to come together and find a way to win. And they came back and they grinded that game out, and they ended up losing in overtime, but they came back and fought back. And so I don't know. They have this identity ever since that game that I've noticed. They're grinders, and they just grind out these wins, and they've been playing. It's this mentality of just grinding these games out. And I don't know, like, I don't know exactly what it was that happened, but something clicked in that game that I've noticed as a fan. Like they just look like a totally different Kings team to me.
They're actually making passes and receiving passes. I feel like they haven't been doing that all season.
Yeah. Guys and James, you'll see that what happens in a season, it could come down to a save. It could come down to a goal. It could come down to a hit in the middle of a game that just wakes a team up, and then they carry that momentum onto the next game. So maybe that's what we've seen. Unfortunately, I didn't see that transition. But you kind of feel it, and James, you maybe have felt it as early with the Ducks.
This first period was great.
Earlier at the first period, I thought, oh my gosh, just bringing in some new blood and give them some reps, that gives you a little bit of a jump. So maybe that's all they need.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Why did the Ducks waive Adam Henrique off the top of your head?
Bro, he was not producing. His plus minus is at -8. He has 1 goal in the season, and for somebody who they just signed to a 5-year deal, it wasn't worth it. It was kind of like the James Neal thing with Edmonton. They just weren't producing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So he's still on the team, but
yeah, he's on the taxi squad. He'll be brought up when.
So he's a scratch, basically.
Yeah. So if Trevor Zegras gets sent back, Henrique will come back. I mean, they kind of created a.
I thought they just completely got rid of him.
And no one picked him up on waivers. I mean, it would have been a completely different.
That's a massive contract.
Yeah, that's the thing. The only reason that you pick a player like that, even with that much, if you have the cap space and if you're a contender, and at this rate, it's a little early to be doing those kind of moves. So, to your point, Eric, that's going to happen a lot this season. You saw that with Corey Perry. We saw that with so many, insert name here, and then they're already back. I mean, Corey Perry is already playing with the Canadians still. So,
yeah.
It's such an interesting season, and that taxi squad. It's just that those high profile or those high high paid players have to go through the waivers, which is crazy. But moving on, as I said, moving on, the NHL is seeing an average of .9068 percentage, worse since the 905 figure in the 07 season, and OT games are up. 26% of them are going to extra time. Eric, these stats are pretty crazy. I mean, I love overtime. I think it's great. But to see the specifically starting with the goaltending, to see goaltending struggle so much this season, what do you think? Why do you think that is?
So you're saying 90% is bad, and that a lot of goals being scored in the NHL is bad?
Well, if you're a coach, or if you're on the receiving end, I suppose.
I know. We always talk NHL goalies, or I do, and the difference of a .90 versus a .94 is tremendous. You could say, like you're saying, a couple more saves can win you a game, can get you in the playoffs, can get you those extra points. I don't know. I think it could be has to do with there's a lot of back-to-backs this year, and you're playing the same team multiple times. Maybe teams are learning these goalies easier, like the Kings are going to play Binnington 5 more times. Maybe they'll play him at least 3 out of those 5, considering back-to-backs. But so there's more back-to-backs. You're playing similar teams more. And I think, I don't know, this could be another reason that they didn't have – I wonder if they didn't have that many expectations on this season. Like the NBA started up before them. And it seemed like everyone was waiting, when is the NHL going to start? They finally it seemed like they came to a quick last minute decision. All right, we're going to go 56 games. Maybe a lot of these goalies came in unprepared compared to as they would in a regular season. We got about there's 40 games left for most teams, the ones that didn't get COVID yet. But, there's been some injuries too, with multiple different goalies playing more. So we'll see. It's going to take some time, I think, for a lot of the goalies to get a feel. But the teams that are doing well are the goalies with the Kings, where they're battling each other and both goalies are playing good.
Yeah. I see that. And I guess we could say that the OT games are kind of a result of that. Just goalies giving up goals at opportune times. I think another thing we need to realize and appreciate is the fact that the truncated season brought little to no, a very small in camp, but no preseason. And the thing about goaltending relative to the skating side is goalies need to be practicing at full speed. They need to be playing full speed, moving side to side, taking those hard shots. You don't really get that in practice. You do, but you really don't. Because, not that you're not trying to score in practice, it's just not the same urgency. So I think it took a little bit of time for them to kind of figure that out. Also, you've seen it. The penalty kills are atrocious this year. The penalty killing is really bad, and that's really a goalie stat. Eric, do you think that a shortened preseason has anything to do with it either?
Definitely. I feel like that's your training camp and all that, and preseason is your time to mold your special teams in hockey, just like it would be in football or any other sport. So, that plays a role. It's, I feel like we keep saying that, blaming that, but it's definitely a reason. Less games playing with each other, learning how each other play on the penalty kill or power play. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting times. And I think it's just going to come down to, the worst division in terms of goaltending and defense is the North Division. Interestingly, all the games seem to be blowouts or high scoring affairs. So
it's all those Oilers games.
Yeah. when a team puts up a touchdown, that's a huge deal. Like that's a lot of goals. Anyway, that's really all I had this week. Eric, yeah, check out my
Thank you,
power rankings.
Tradon. Yeah, some great NHL insight. We got about 40 games left of the NHL season. Let's just chalk it up, guys. Kings will just make the playoffs. We'll take it from there as far as the NHL goes. But we're going to take a little break, and we'll come right. We'll talk the other league that's going right now, the NBA, when we return. Listeners, fans, all the above, we are back to our next segment. We're talking the next active sport right now, NBA. Never a dull moment in this league. Alex always comes in with the hot takes. What do we got this week?
Yeah, the NBA is in full swing. We're going to get into kind of a bunch of different topics this week. But first off, I'm going to go over the basketball ones. I'm tied for first at 7-2, beating James this week pretty handedly, I'd say so myself. James is still going along strong, though, at 6-3. And then, Tyler, you beat Tradon.
Yes.
So you're now 4-5. What a record.
Getting there.
3-6 down there. Kylie has officially surpassed you in the rankings.
Yeah, she is soaring right now. She's
her team's
loving every minute of it too.
Yeah, her team is killing it. So got to give a shout out to Kylie there. But yeah, moving into the actual, what's going on in the real basketball league, not our fake one. I don't know how we haven't talked about this yet. But just like every other major sport, the playoffs have changed this year for basketball. So typically what happens is the 8 best teams record-wise in each conference make the playoffs. 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, on and on and on. This season, technically 10 teams will playoffs. Teams 1 through 6 are going to be, it's kind of same old. And then teams, this is very confusing, so let me read it out. It's really dumb. Teams 7 and 8 will play each other 1 game. Whichever one of those teams wins that game is then the 7 seed going into the playoffs. Then teams 9 and 10 also play each other 1 game. Whoever wins that plays the loser of teams 7 and 8. And then whoever wins that is then the 8 seed. Did you follow that?
I hate that.
Barely.
Okay.
It's like college football playoffs.
Yeah, kind of. But so if you're a 7,
it should really be a best out of 3.
It really should be. So if you're a 7 or an 8 seed going into this little mini tournament, you just got to win 1 game and then you're in. You're the 7, you play whoever ends up being the 2. If you're the 9 or the 10, you got to win 2 games back to back. And you know what you get? You get the 8 seed and you get to play the 1 seed. It's a mess. Tradon and I were talking about it earlier. I believe his direct quote, "I have things to say about this." Tradon, I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts are.
What kind of cockamamie bullshit is Adam Silver thinking? I mean, or I guess the league in general. I mean, it's the most ridiculous bullshit I've ever seen. I mean, I get the fact trying to get more teams in. That's how you make money. You market your players. I get it, but guys, come on. They're playing a 72 game season. It's not even a truncated season. It's not like, and everyone's going to be playing roughly the same amount of games. If they have to come down to percentage of points, much like the percentage of games, they may have to do that like the NHL, because some teams just might not get their games in. But guys, there's no reason to bring in a 10th and 9th seed. That we saw this. I had an issue with it in the NHL, and the only reason I was okay with it is because it was the season was cut short unexpectedly, and not all the games. No one had close in terms played, but I just don't understand how a 10th seed, who right now in the East would be the Heat, who have a 433 point percentage of games won. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why should they even get any chance to play in the playoffs? Oh, and by the way, if they lose, they're still going to be part of the lottery, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure the NBA does the lottery the same way. It's the same fucking bullshit we saw in the NHL. And guess what? That's why the Rangers got first pick. They made it to the playoffs, lost, and they still got Alexis Lafreniere. It's absolute bullshit. It's so stupid. 1 through 8. Just keep it simple. I mean, if you're told me that not every team's going to play their 72 games and it's going to be way, and there's not even close to the amount of games, or the Heat had a chance to maybe get the 8th seed if they had played all their games. So you're going to give them, that's the only time that you'd give them the shot, but everyone's going to be playing roughly the same amount of games. It's absolutely horse shit. It's so stupid. That's it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, it's definitely, they're trying to get more teams involved. The more playoff games that are on TV, more TV revenue, a larger national audience when there's only, 3 or 4 games going on in an evening. It is a little ridiculous. Boys or the other 3, you guys all had reactions. Do you any thoughts on this, since we haven't really even talked about this yet?
It's interesting seeing every league's kind of response to everything. And I kind of agree with Tradon. I think it's kind of overthinking it. I think that they were playing pretty dang close to a regular season already. Why add this little mini tournament at the end? That's kind of part of me. And part of me kind of thinks fuck it. It's COVID. It's already weird. Why not just make it weirder? Let's just roll with it and see what happens. Just this 1 year. Let's just fuck it.
Okay. So you're not a fan of keeping this long-term though?
No, definitely not.
Okay. James?
I'm not opposed to the 10 teams getting to playoffs. That's not where the issue lies for me. The issue lies for me is the fact that it's a 1-game series. Teams have bad shooting nights, so it's really hard to base it off 1 game. The purpose of getting the 2 extra teams in there is to even the playing field a little bit for teams that don't necessarily go the distance, or because the season is shortened by 10 games. So who knows what could happen in those 10 games, but only giving 1 more extra game to play doesn't make much sense to me. Make it a best out of 3. That way, if a team has a bad game, they have a redemption. 1 game is tough.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I have a feeling a little bit later in this podcast, you'll have to say some other things too.
Before we finish, I mean, what is the want or the necessity to do well in the regular season if you have a 2-3 chance of making the playoffs? It's the more teams you add in, the less of a big deal the playoffs are, right? I mean, the less teams that are in, the harder it is to get in there. The better teams are going to you're going to get better basketball. I think it's stupid.
I think with last year in the bubble, they kind of had something like this. Remember the Trailblazers had to play the Grizzlies, the 1-game series. Whoever would have won would have played the Lakers, which ended up being the Trailblazers. But I think the NBA, the past few years, has had teams like the Trailblazers, the Heat. They're good teams with superstars that are on the brink of making playoffs. So I wonder if that could be a reason they chucked them in like that this year. Jimmy Butler was in the finals last year. It's the first time we saw him in the finals, and he did phenomenal. This year we may, the Grizzlies slip into that last spot. We get to see Ja Morant in the playoffs for the first time ever. Maybe this was their reasoning. I don't know, but it's my take on it.
I honestly think the reason behind this is the fact that Adam Silver is banking on states reopening as time goes on.
Yes.
And so having that 1 extra playoff game means people can go to games and see that 1 playoff game. Sure. And if it's 25% capacity, it's 25% more people than wouldn't be able to see it beforehand. So I think that adds a little bit more incentive just because of that fact.
That's fair.
That's a good point. I really like Eric's point too, because the NBA does market their stars better than the other 3 professional major sports leagues by a mile. It's not even close how much better the NBA does it compared to the other 3, especially baseball. You want to see Dame Lillard in the playoffs. You want to see him hit shots like that. That's what brings people into the NBA. So that actually got out of hand than I thought it was going to, but I liked all your takes. But moving on, one of the NBA's big stars is going to be out for a minimum of 4 weeks. That's Anthony Davis of the Lakers. He's got an Achilles injury. Tyler, as the other resident Lakers fan on this podcast, is it time to worry in Los Angeles?
A little bit, honestly, just because their start without Anthony Davis, these first four or so games they tied without him, not gone so well. They don't look good at all without him. They look pretty lost. They're also missing Dennis Schroeder right now due to health and safety protocols, so it's kind of a double whammy right now. 2 of their starters are out. LeBron can only do so much. You kind of asked me what do the rest of the Lakers besides LeBron have to do? I think it just goes back to this team's identity. Like what made them champions was their defense. I think there's been a lot of things kind of gone out of whack with having AD out, and they need to kind of reset their defensive system to, fit in the players that they have and kind of figure that out first to starve the defense. And they're also kind of right now going through a shooting slump. They're not shooting very well from three, especially I think they were like 20% from three the last 2 games or something really bad like that. So they're missing their star player, they're missing their starting point guard, and they're going through a slump right now shooting. So a lot of things are going bad right now. But I think the shooting will come back. Hopefully Schroeder comes back in a week or so, or whenever his health and safety protocol timeline ends. And hopefully this team kind of finds their identity without Anthony Davis. I think they will. I think this team's got a lot of depth. I mean, KCP, Caruso, Gasol, Harrell, Kuzma. Also, can we give a shout out to Kyle Kuzma, how good he's looked this year, especially defensively. I think I saw a stat he's the 5th ranked defensive player, or has the 5th best defensive rating in the NBA. And if you guys have seen any Laker games lately, he is an exciting player to watch, especially on defense, man. He's getting after it. So I want to give a big shout out to Kuzma. He has stepped up, but we need those other guys to step up as well, especially with AD being gone for a while. And the Lakers got a bunch of huge games coming up against Utah, Portland, Golden State, and Phoenix all in a row. They got those 4 games. So right now I'm not really confident we can win any of those. But I think, like I said, this team's they have a good coaching staff. They've got good depth. I think they're just going through a little bit of a slump on top of a few injuries, but they gotta click it back pretty soon here, because we're getting down to the kind of later part of the season, and like I said, a lot of huge games coming up. So the Lakers need to figure out pretty quick here.
Yeah, without. I'm going to be completely honest. Without AD, the Lakers cannot win a championship. I think they can still compete. I still think they can be a very good team. I just think that the West is too deep. I don't think they can get through the West without AD. He's a top 5 player in the game. Luckily for the Lakers, their depth is insane, and luckily the injury happened now instead of 2 months from now. So he's got some time to heal. Hopefully, he can get his conditioning back. And Laker Nation will have to move forward from there. But speaking of LeBron, he is starting in the All-Star game once again. He was the leading vote getter in the West. Kevin Durant, leading vote getter in the East, which is pretty cool for him after coming back from all these injuries. So the West, let's go through them real quick. So Luka Doncic and Steph Curry will be in the backcourt. LeBron, Jokic, and Kawhi in the front court. In the East, Kyrie Irving and Bradley Beal in the backcourt. KD, Giannis, and Joel Embiid in the front court for the East. Eric, what do you think about the All-Star starters so far? And then do you think anyone got snubbed? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, going off of pretty much every time we talk the NBA, the West is so deep, because you see Damian Lillard is not starting, but it's because Luka Doncic and Steph Curry are starting, and they both had phenomenal seasons. Like, it doesn't take anything away from Lillard, but that's one thing. Paul George is a backup. I think he kind of went down with an injury a couple weeks ago, when after we had talked about he was just rolling through this season, playing really well. That could probably play a role in what happened with that, but he's still in it nonetheless. Snub wise, Tobias Harris, I think he is like the cornerstone of that 76ers team. He's probably like the hardest worker there. He's brings his energy every day and night. But I guess as far as an all-star is concerned, that's maybe just one category that they look at. Zach LaVine is nowhere to be found on an all-star roster this year. That guy's like the only noticeable player on the Bulls, probably for like the last 3 years. And he's like, at least a 30-point scorer usually every night. Devin Booker, nowhere to be found on an all-star roster this year. You look at the Suns having like the best season they've had. in many, many moons, you could say. One other snub in the West, Brandon Ingram, actually. He has had a good season with the Pelicans this year. Their team is just not good, but he's been doing well. He's been putting up good numbers most nights that he's playing. I guess one other guy. Actually, hold up. I got some more snubs. Hold up. DeRozan is not in the lineup. It's not that big of a snub that he's not there, but he has revamped that Spurs lineup. Harden is not starting, but that's because he kind of sat out in the beginning of the year and he had to reprove himself. He's now in the Nets, doing phenomenal, of course. Chris Paul is a wild card. He's older. He's probably got only a few seasons left in this league. I could see that. Donovan Mitchell is a backup. But, it goes back to the Luka Doncic and Steph Curry. They're more of the popular vote probably than Donovan Mitchell, but that guy is phenomenal. Nonetheless, though, these guys are in the All-Stars. They're just not the starters.
Yeah, I agree. The Zach LaVine take. That guy is carrying that Bulls team, and they're in a playoff spot right now. I don't think Kyrie probably should have started. He missed a bunch of games due to COVID or personal reasons, which, we have no idea what that is. But then he got in trouble for being seen out at a big family gathering. Zach LaVine's been killing it. He's on my fantasy team, so that's kind of part of it too. But yeah, I think we all agreed when we talked about it last time, this All-Star game is kind of dumb. They shouldn't be having it, but it's still fun to talk about. There's always going to be snubs. There's, LeBron's going to make it every year because he's LeBron. That's kind of the deal. We'll see how the rest of it, kind of plays out. Last topic, Boogie Cousins is mutually parting ways with the Rockets. The Rockets have decided they want to go smaller in the front court. James, Boogie Cousins used to be a force in this league. Since he's had a lot of leg injuries, he's a big man. What can he bring to a contender if he has anything left? And where do you have a prediction on where he signs, or what are your thoughts on Boogie?
I absolutely think there's stuff left. Right now, Christian Wood's been out for an extended period of time due to a fracture, I believe. And Boogie Cousins filled in. And Boogie Cousins has been averaging a double-double in that time frame. He's still got it. He's still good. It may not be the 25 and 15 that we're used to, but it's 16 and 10. And that's still good enough to help out any team. He can play for any contender, honestly. Right now, though, my personal favorite would be the Lakers, mainly because they've shown that they need a big guy. AD, after he gets healthy again, will sit out multiple games due to rest anyway. The Lakers are trying to preserve him for the long run. And Boogie can be in there. And him and AD have played together in New Orleans, and they did well together. That was the MVP seasons of both AD and Boogie Cousins. They were both favorites to win the MVP that year because they were just so dominant together. And if they can create that partially with the Lakers this year, that'd be another force to be reckoned with. I love Mark to death. His IQ is super high. He can shoot the three and he can pass the ball, but he doesn't get rebounds. He doesn't really do all that much on the offensive side other than sit out there. They need somebody that can score down there. They need a secondary help, and that's what Boogie can do. He was signed to the Lakers last year before he tore his ACL, I believe. So the thought was there. He was part of that plan. They can do it again. Another team that I think he'd work well in is the Nets. Those are the two teams that's been connected with. The Nets also need a big. DeAndre Jordan is not what's advertised. DeAndre Jordan used to be good because he was athletic and could block, but that's not really where the league's going anymore. Nobody's really running into the paint all that much, and when they do, he fouls them. Fact of the matter is he can't score. So you need to score, and DeMarcus Cousins is sitting there waiting to get picked up. He's going to go to contender. He's going to contribute. Whoever picks him will be lucky to have him. He's going to come with a $3 million price tag, super light, and it's going to be great for him, for the team that gets.
Yeah, the Lakers would be an interesting pick. He already knows the system. It's the same coach. He was there all season last year. He didn't play, like you said, he was hurt. And the Nets would be interesting too. That would just be a star-studded lineup with Boogie Cousins. I hope he makes it. He's kind of gotten a bad rap over the years, but he's been a great player, and we'll see where he ends up. But Eric, that's all I got for the NBA this week.
Yeah, those are some good hot takes. All-Star break is right around the corner, everybody. We all know you'll be watching. When we come back, Tyler is going to talk about the next sport that is about to start way quicker than I realized, the MLB, when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. We are getting right into the MLB because guess what? It is 6 days away from beginning our spring training. Tyler is our main baseball guy, and of course, he wants to tell you all about it. So let's hear about it, Tyler.
Hell yeah. Position players report to spring training camp this week. So we're just going to see the first full squad workouts happening here pretty soon. And then in a couple more weeks, we'll have our first spring training game starting. So we're getting into it, boys. So we previewed the American League East and Central. Now we're going to get in the last division, the American League West. And this one is, I think, probably the most intriguing division in the American League. A lot of interesting storylines going on in this one. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with the reigning American League West champions, the Oakland Athletics. In 2020, they won the division with a 36-24 record. They ended up losing to the Astros in the ALDS. In the offseason, they traded for shortstop Elvis Andrews. They also lost two of their big players, Marcus Semien and their closer, Liam Hendricks, to free agency. Oakland A's don't really sign free agents that much. They're pretty strapped payroll-wise, so they got to rely on their farm system and trades to kind of make their team. Their projected rotation will look at Chris Bassett, Jesus Luzardo, Frankie Montez, Sean Manaea, and Mike Fiers. Their projected lineup: catcher Sean Murphy, first baseman Matt Olson, second baseman Tony Kemp, shortstop Elvis Andrews, third baseman Matt Chapman, and the outfielders Ramon Laureano, Mark Canha, and Stephen Piscotty, and their DH is Mitch Moreland. The bad for this A's team, though those two free agents they lost are pretty big hits. And bullpen wise, I don't know if this team is as deep as they used to be. They actually lost quite a bit of other bullpen arms to other teams as well. The good is they're starting pitching. They're young, they're talented. If they can stay healthy, this is one of the best rotations in that league. And Matt Chapman is back. So that'll be huge for them. Having their star third baseman back in that lineup. So James, I'm asking you about this A's team. We all like the A's starting pitching. It's pretty solid 1 through 5 there. But I want to talk about the offense a little bit. They had a pretty shaky season last year, kind of underperformed a little bit. Do you think this offense bounces back and will have a good 2021?
No. Main reason why they didn't add to that at all. In fact, they lost. Is Elvis Andrews better than Marcus Semien? No. Marcus Semien is one of the better shortstops in this league offensively. He did have a down year last year, but on average, he's still a 254 hitter. He's a good player. One person you did not mention is Chris Davis, who's also gone from that team as a DH. He had a tough last year with 2 home runs, but he was a power guy. He had 48 home runs 2 years ago, and he's averaged throughout his time in the big leagues, he's averaging 31 a year, not counting this last season because this last season was shorter. But the fact of the matter is that's a lot of home runs that's going out the window. And you're adding Mitch Moreland from the Red Sox, I believe, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and he doesn't really touch those numbers. He's a good player too, but the fact of the matter is they didn't add as much as they needed to keep that lineup in games offensively. So yeah. Oh, also Tommy Lestella. People don't mention him, but they traded for him late in the season. He's now with the Giants, but he was decent. He had power. He could hit home runs, and he could get on base at a decent rate too. And so now you're losing a utility guy on the edge of that as well. Did they get better? No.
Gotcha. So even with Matt Chapman back in that lineup, you don't think this A's team will be better offensively?
Matt Chapman was in that lineup for the majority of the year. He just he got injured towards the last 3 weeks of it. So the last 3 weeks isn't going to make up for the entire year. You got to look at the entire year's numbers. And even then they still struggled. They were the best team in the AL West, but they weren't they got to replicate that same stuff again, and I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think this A's team offensively is an interesting one. I think they can be better than they've done. So we'll see what happens this season. With that being said, with that offense kind of in question, do you see this team as a postseason team this season?
No, I don't. I think they finished third in the division. Main reason why is because their bullpen did get worse. Hendricks, I was a huge fan of that guy. He's from Australia, really cool. But they lost him, and he was a big part of that. He was in almost all their games at the end. And yeah, their start pitching is good, but they're young. And what happens with younger pitchers is that they often get in their heads. And so that bad string of games, they don't need to be saved by their bullpen, which is not as strong as it used to be. And with an offense that underperforms, I don't think it's a recipe for success this season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the A's team does. I think this division is going to be really tight. So moving on to the Houston Astros, they finished second in 2020, with a 29-31 record. They lost to the ALC in the ALCS to the Rays in 7 games. Off season weren't very busy. They really just lost George Springer to free agency. Other than that, they really didn't do a whole lot. Their projected rotation: Zach Greinke, Lance McCullers, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, and Jose Uridi. Their projected lineup will be catcher Jason Castro, first baseman Yuli Gurriel, second baseman Jose Altuve, shortstop Carlos Correa, third baseman Alex Bregman, outfielders Michael Brantley, Kyle Tucker, Miles Straw, and their DH is Jordan Alvarez. The bad for this team, the pitching is a big question mark. They have lost Justin Verlander injury. They lost Garrett Cole, of course, a couple seasons ago. This isn't the same pitching team as they once were. Zach Greinke's getting up there in age. Lance McCullers Jr. We'll see what we get out of him. Other than that, their depth is kind of lacking. Of course, the cheating scandal I think still looms a little bit with this team as well. They still got, Altuve, Correa, Bregman. Those guys are all involved with that. The good is they got Dusty Baker as their leader. I think he's one of the best managers of all time. And he really kind of, I think, helped this team and will this team to make it as far as they did in the postseason. So he's a huge leader for that team. And the young core is mostly still intact, minus George Springer, who left. So they're still got some offensive firepower on this team for sure. So Tradon, I want to ask you a couple questions about this Astros team. First being the signing and stealing scandal. We've talked a lot about it, but I don't know if they're completely past it yet. So I want to know, do you think that it's behind them and in 2021 it's kind of a clean slate? We dealt with it last year. Or do you think they're still going to deal with some retaliation in 2021? Yeah,
I think they're going to deal. Here's the thing. We actually had this conversation, at the beginning of the truncated season, that are they going to get targeted? And actually, I think that they actually got targeted less than they probably would have in an otherwise full season. Now the full season's here. You get your, 162 games. They're going to get, they're going to get their lickings. And guess what? I think the Houston Astros need to just mentally get over it. Let the teams do their thing. They're gonna hit you. You deserve it. Just take it. Take your lickings and move on. I think that's gonna be the key for them this year, is to just block out that bad juju, I guess we'll say. Dusty Baker, like you said, I think I speak for everyone when saying they're pretty impressive that they made it as far as they did in the postseason. They came in as a wild card, I believe, and they beat the A's. And I thought they were going to move on to the World Series again. There was a point where we all thought that at one point in the series. So I think that they just need to battle the mental side of it and just get over it. And they themselves, I think, are over it and can be over it. Whether the league is not, or whether the other teams are not, fuck them. Who cares? Just deal with what you can control, and you can control your own destiny at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that part of it. Fans are expected to be back in some capacity for 2021, so that's definitely going to have some impact. Mm-hmm. Also, there was one team that really didn't get their chance at retaliation in 2020. The Dodgers did, the A's did, but one other team that has a lot of beef with this team are the New York Yankees.
Yes.
They probably got as much bad luck with that as the Dodgers and the A's did. They didn't play them at all in 2020. They're going to be playing them a few times in 2021. They also will play the Dodgers again in 2020 as well. So we'll see if anything happens. So that'll be very interesting to follow. But those New York Yankees matchups, and the Yankees ain't afraid to get dirty. Like, let's be honest. If there's a team that's going to play hardball, it's the New York Yankees. So
Definitely,
we will see what happens with that. And do you think that this 2021 season, with this core, they got a lot of free agents after this season, is this their last chance to win a World Series title with this particular core intact?
Yeah. I mean, when Ainge came in early, 2015, right? Window was huge. Window is very small now. I mean, this is it. I mean, let's look at this. A handful of players, and this is to your WAR stats, your WAR stats. A handful of players who had a positive WAR and made positive contributions to the team are still on the team. The others have gone. The others have been either traded away or been left astray. That's position players, and only the pitchers are in the same boat. On top of that, if you look at the Baseball Prospectus ranks the program minor leagues or farm systems, they've went from 8th to 26th over a year. That's not a good sign. It doesn't really help that you do so well. I mean, regardless of the scandal, I mean, we can all agree that they were still a good team. When you're a good team, you give up picks. You start to make moves that get you to that next level, that get you to the depths of the postseason. You're not really worried about the future as much. This is what happens. This is just part of it. As you said, there's a lot of free agents coming in. Here, let's look at this. They first of all, they lost their 2020 and 2021 first round picks. So your future is in the hands of your farm system, which is looking pretty shitty right now. Your top prospect was a first round pick in 2016, and he's struggling in the minors. The other three first round picks are either traded away or still in the minors. I mean, that's not a recipe for future success. So you guys have a very small window. You better take advantage of the very small window you have, because it's gone. It's gone.
Tradon, you turned into a real good baseball guy there. That was a great take. Delving deep into this Astros very grim future.
Yep.
I don't think a lot of people are upset about that. So we will see how they do in 2020, but I agree with you. I think this is pretty much their last chance to really go for it. So we'll see. So good. I guess good luck to the Astros in 2021. I guess I just will say it just to say it. All right, moving on to the third place finishers, which is a little bit surprising of a finish for 2020. The Seattle Mariners. They finished with a 27-33 record. Their off season, not very busy. They did sign relief pitcher Ken Giles, who at once was one of the best closers in baseball. He had Tommy John surgery, so he won't be playing in 2021, but he is a current member of the Mariners. That's really all they did in the offseason. Their projected rotation will be Marco Gonzalez, James Paxton, Yessi Kikuchi, Justice Sheffield, awesome fucking baseball name, Chris Flexton, and Justin Dunn. Their projected lineup: catcher Tom Murphy, first baseman Evan White, second baseman Dylan Moore, shortstop J.P. Crawford, third baseman Kyle Seager, outfielders Mitch Haniger, Kyle Lewis, and Jared Klenick, and the DH is Ty France. The bad is this team, despite kind of a successful 2020, is still in rebuild mode. Pitching wise, they got a couple. Marco Gonzalez, I think, is pretty solid. He's going to give you a lot of good innings. James Paxton, is pretty solid as well. But past that, they don't really have a whole lot. So they need a lot of pitching help. The good, a lot of exciting young talent. They got the reigning Rookie of the Year, Kyle Lewis, on their team. Mitch Haniger, if he's healthy, is, I think, one of the most complete players in baseball. They got some exciting talent on this team. So Eric, I want to ask you, do you agree that this team a lot of people are projecting them to take a step back in 2021? And do you think that next year, 2022, will be the first year that they'll be serious contenders for a playoff spot?
They will be taking a step back. According to Fangraphs, they have a 1.7% chance of making the playoffs this year. I mean, what the fuck? They're going to be bad.
Orioles have 0, dude.
Huh?
The Baltimore Orioles 0% in the playoffs, just so you know.
Well, apparently last year the Miami Marlins had 0.7% chance that they made it. They're like the one team to prove this Fangraphs
You're saying there's a chance
wrong. Huh?
So you're saying there's a chance.
So I'm saying there's a 1.7% chance this year. They're pitching. So here last year, their stats pitching for them, second to last in the American League in home runs allowed, 13th out of 15th in hits allowed, 13th out of 15th in batting average, and they just aren't that good. So you see, I mean, you just went over it. They didn't really pick up many guys in the offseason. Their pitching was pretty bad last year. Maybe it improves a little bit this year, but I don't see them doing too well on the other side of the ball. I think they're going to pull a classic Mariners of go on the 5 or 6 win streak, and people are like, "Oh, the Mariners are hot right now," and then everything just crumbles and they fall down the mountain from there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a long season for the Mariners, but I think they're up and coming. They're gonna have to definitely prove, especially on the pitching side. Prospect wise, they do have a pretty good pool. I think they're in the top 10 farm system wise. So we'll see, but they're definitely gonna have to also have some, free agent signings and that kind of thing to make them really competitive. But if you look at the way that this division is going, as we mentioned, the Astros, their window is very much closing. We could see this Mariners team, I think, in the future very soon kind of make a run with kind of how this division is kind of shifting pretty soon here. Moving on to the Los Angeles Angels, the moment you've all been waiting for. In 2020, they finished 4th with a 26-34 record. Offseason, they were pretty busy. First of all, they fired their general manager, Billy Epler, and hired Perry Minasian, and he got to work. He traded for outfielder Dexter Fowler, traded for starting pitcher Alex Cobb, signed starting pitcher Jose Quintana, signed veteran catcher and World Series champion Kurt Suzuki. They also traded for shortstop Jose Iglesias and traded for relief pitcher Raciel Iglesias. So did a lot of work there. Their projected rotation, good old Angels pitching staff: Andrew Heaney, Dylan Bundy, Jose Quintana, Griffin Canning, Shohei Ohtani, and Alex Cobb. Their lineup will be catcher Max Stassi, first baseman Albert Pujols, second baseman David Fletcher, shortstop Jose Iglesias, third baseman Anthony Rendon. The outfielders Justin Upton, Dexter Fowler, and some guy named Mike Trout. And their DH will be Shohei Ohtani. The bad, again, the pitching. We say it every year. They just have a lot of question marks. I think they are a little bit better this year, but is Dylan Bundy for real? He had a great 2020. Can this guy sustain his success and roll it over to 2021? Can Ohtani and Canning stay healthy? Will Quintana and Cobb, these two veteran, players, will they contribute? Will they actually provide a lot of wins and starts for this team? The other, I think, looming bad thing for this team is there's a lot of pressure to get Mike Trout in the playoffs before his prime is over and the clock is ticking. He's still very young, but this team still has a long way to go to be real contenders. The good, at least you have Mike Trout, best player in baseball. MLB.com ranked him the #1 player in baseball for the 6th year in a row. Offense will once again be great on paper. And this division, I don't think there's a window to win this division this year for the Angels. I don't think it's a very strong division. So you have that going for you. So we have 3 Angels fans on the podcast: James, Tradon, and Eric. So I'm going to ask you each a question about the Angels. So James, I'm going to start off with you. In your opinion, a lot of predictions have this Angels team finishing second after a fourth place finish last year. In your opinion, why do you think that a lot of prediction systems are having the Angels finish so high?
Just a heads up, I do have a lot to say about this. I love the Angels. It's literally the only baseball team I watch, the only team I've ever watched for baseball. So I have a lot to say. You mentioned a lot of additions that the Angels brought in, and those are all great. But I think you forgot to mention the fact that they've developed really well as well. Look at the emergence of Jared Walsh and David Fletcher. David Fletcher had the highest batting average for a long time in the MLB. Like, he ended up with a 319. He actually finished 17th in AL MVP voting. Fun fact. For somebody that you 17th, that's crazy. Right down there, but it's on the list. Also, Jared Walsh. I talked about it at the intro. He's going to supplant Albert Pujols for first base. He came in out of nowhere and got hot. In the month of September, just the month of September alone, there's only 3 games out of 21 games that he didn't get a hit. That also include 9 multi-hit games and 9 home runs in just September. If we played a full season and he was able to build upon that in September and continue to work towards it, who knows what kind of numbers he would have gotten. Like, he had the momentum and he was doing great. Additionally, they added Dexter Fowler, like you had mentioned before. He's better than Joe Adell at this moment. And don't get it twisted. Joe Adell is a great prospect and he has potential to be a really good baseball player, but he needs one more year in the minors. He did not do well in the majors last year. And Dexter Fowler can get on base. He has a 223 batting average over his career. He's proven, he's done it, he's good. And the additions that you mentioned before, how that's the biggest question mark. I think that the Angels aren't getting pitchers to strike you out. They're getting the type of pitchers that will eat up innings so that their bullpen can come in and finish the game. All the meantime, relying on their offense to get them get them ahead and having their closers close the game. It's not about keeping their opponents to 0 runs. It's about outscoring them. And they brought in pitchers that eat up innings. Jose Quintana, you didn't see a lot of it last year because he had this freak injury with a wine glass, but he typically goes like 7 to 8 innings a game. Same thing with Alex Cobb. They eat up innings. They're not known for striking people out. They just take a lot of time. And that allows your closers to come in, finish the game, and your offense should do well. So in total, I believe that they have people have them finishing second because of all they built together. It's not just a plug and play kind of thing. It's more the culture that they've developed with their team, and how that team has come together through tough times, and now they want to win.
I like it. I mean, I hope they do well. You know, I've said there for a long time. You know, I want to see Mike Trout in the playoffs. I want to see these 2 LA teams hopefully meet in a World Series. I think that'd be freaking awesome. Tradon, I talk about it every year, how this Angels, they just can't find good pitching. They have, I would say, a decent starting staff. Do you think they have enough pitching to be a postseason contender in 2021?
Postseason contender? Probably not.
Yeah.
Sorry, boys. Just there's too many question marks. I can't say for sure that we're gonna have it. I don't know how I follow up James. That was incredible. Like I'm not even gonna come close to that. But look, the Angels starters had a 5.52 ERA, which was ranked second to last in the majors. That is not very good, clearly. Ohtani was hurt, and he hasn't played very much over his time, you know, on the Angels. But obviously he's going to be a big X factor. I think that if he is actually healthy, like they say he is, he underwent this, you know, crazy workout routine, and he's back with no restrictions. We may see some improvement there. You know, like you said, is Dylan Bundy for real? I mean, he had a 3.29 ERA, he was the best of that rotation, but who knows what you're going to get if he's going to continue that. You know, Canning did step forward, but he needs to keep stepping forward. I will say that, you know, Cobb and Quintana, as you mentioned, I think they have played under Madden in the past, and they did pretty damn good. So maybe they get a little bit of a resurgence being back with an old manager. I think it's kind of a wait and see. I mean, because, you know, the manager, the general manager, and fans and non-fans alike, like yourself, have been. There's an issue with the rotation. There's an issue with the rotation. We say it every freaking year. How can I say that they're going to have the pitching to be a postseason contender? I don't even know if they're going to make the damn playoffs. I don't know what I'm going to get. So to James's point, I think he's got a point though. I mean, maybe the pitching is just good enough to get their offense, on the field and making them win games. But as we've seen in terms of contention, you need both. You need to be able to pitch and you need to be able to play offense. So I don't know how I can say they can be contender when I don't even know if they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of things have to go right with this current pitching staff as assembled for them to be, I would say, a contending pitching staff. But they're needing more help, and they can get help. Like I said, if the Angels get off to a hot start, they can always make a trade. For a guy that can help them reach that level. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, and as you mentioned, just a lot of question marks there. They're still not there on the pitching side for me. Eric, you got Shohei Ohtani as your background. I know you're a big Shohei fan. He has, from spring training from day one, Joe Madden said Shohei Ohtani is full go, pitching and hitting, which is really exciting for baseball. And hopefully we can see that. Hopefully he can stay healthy enough to be able to play a full 2021 season. So I want to ask you, what is more likely that we're going to see? Is it more likely that Shohei will hit 20 home runs or that he'll make 20 starts as a pitcher?
Well, as you can see right here, he's swinging a bat. But also, I just think he's a better hitter than he is a pitcher. Last year, he did, way better hitting than pitching, of course. I remember you guys, let us know about that, as you would as a Dodgers fan. But I think he's more likely to have 20 home runs. I don't think they should let him pitch anymore. I think he needs to be a designated hitter for them. Usually, like the things he does well for them is to get base hits and home runs. And think about it, for him pitching, it's gone bad 2 out of 2 times. So 100% bad when he's pitching. Led to elbow injuries both times. Keep him as a hitter. Keep him productive. He's going to get more home runs. Don't let him pitch. I bet you James can tell you 10 more things he doesn't like about Joe Madden. That's probably one thing I'll say with Joe Madden is just keep Ohtani as a hitter. You're better off with that. Develop your pitchers. Develop Ohtani to be in one position and designate him for that one position. Don't let him think he's both.
I don't think James likes that take.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. Go for it, James.
So, okay. Last season, he had 2 starts, and they were both terrible. But I believe that was a function of a non-training camp, a reduced spring training. He was coming off of Tommy John. Like, you can't expect him to go in there and do well coming off of Tommy John without having any sort of regular off-season program. That in of itself, that did him a disservice. He should have been brought in there. Let's start him as like a middle reliever. Give him an inning or 2 every couple of games and work his way up. Don't put him in there to start and have all these expectations for him to do well when he hasn't pitched in a year. Coming off of Tommy John with a brand new, like his body got bigger. His first season versus his third, his body, it's a lot more control. There's a lot more nuance to throwing than you might think. The Angels messed him up by doing that. If he shows flashes of what he did his first season, he was throwing like an ace his first season. He was striking out people like crazy. He didn't play in as many games because he was still in his first season. But the fact of the matter is, if he can come anywhere close to that, he'll be a damn good pitcher. And the Angels will gladly have him in that 6th spot in the rotation, or the 5th spot. I don't know. Is it 5 or 6? What the last spot is?
Yeah, usually
he can beat out Alex. Yeah, like I think he should stay. Give him another chance. You can't base it off of one season where he was coming off Tommy John and didn't have a full off season.
I'd say just keep him in the bullpen during the game, warming up the whole time. Just keep him warm, and just have him keep hitting though. But they have great dynamic warm-ups, right, Tyler? And you see them warming up for like 15 minutes.
They should.
Just keep them warm.
Yeah.
Let them, just let them hit. Just put them in if you run out of pitchers, like that happened some random game last year, I think. When you run out of pitchers, put them in.
Can I ask a question for a dumb fan who doesn't know anything? If he starts pitching, can he still be a DH in the same game?
Yes.
Cool.
That's what the AL does.
We might have found a solution.
They just won't have
Or the NL does.
But usually, I believe that I could be wrong about this. Maybe Alex, I don't know if you know, but I believe that the days that Shohei started, he didn't hit.
Yeah, they did it was he would start. He starts on Sundays. He would not play as a DH at all Monday and sometimes Tuesday, and then he'd hit Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then wouldn't play Saturday. So like even if he does do both, you still only get him max 5 days out of the week. Which is kind of a downfall when he's, you're probably your third best player.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting experiment. We haven't really had a true two-way player like this in a very, very long time. It's very hard to do. What Shohei is attempting to do is very difficult. But I agree with James. Like, I think they need to give him one more shot at it. I think this 2021 season he'll be in good shape. Hopefully it goes well. I do agree with Eric. I think 20 home runs is probably more likely. If I was a betting man, I'd probably put it on the home run side, not the pitching side, because he just hasn't really proven that he's durable pitching. But he could break those barriers in 2021, and I hope he does. I think it's a super exciting possibility to see a guy be a top pitcher and a top hitter on the same team. I think that's awesome. So hopefully Shohei he bounces back and has a good year. All right, moving on to the Texas Rangers. Finished with the worst record in the American League last year, 22-38. In the offseason, didn't do a whole lot. They traded for outfielder Chris Davis, and they signed outfielder David Dahl. Their projected rotation is Kyle Gibson, Jordan Lyles, Dane Dunning, Eric Velasquez, and Kyle Cody. Projected lineup: catcher Jose Trevino, first baseman Nate Lowe, second baseman Nick Solak, shortstop Isaiah Kiner Falafa, third baseman Rougned Odor, outfielders Joey Gallo, Willie Calhoun, and David Dahl, and the DH is Chris Davis. The bad, lots. It's full on rebuild times. There's really it's a rough time down there in Texas. In a lot of ways right now. The good, you got a nice new ballpark at least, so that's good. Alex, surprise question for you that I didn't prepare you for.
Okay.
One of the names in the rotation is not a real pitcher for the Texas Rangers. Which one was it?
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
The ones you just said?
Yeah, do you want me to?
Yeah, same again. I recognize at least three of them.
Kyle Gibson, Jordan Lyles, Dane Dunning, Eric Velasquez, and Kyle Cody.
It's one of the last two. I'm going to go with Eric Velasquez.
Damn it. You're right.
Boy!
Eric Velasquez is the minor league coordinator for the Boston Red Sox. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Just got it. So good job. You passed the test.
Thank you.
So my actual question to you, and it's going to be simple.
Yeah.
Does this team finish with the worst record in the American League for a second consecutive season?
Yes. Just to be upfront. I mean, when you look at the other teams that were poor last year, the Tigers, the Royals, the Orioles, the Red Sox, you expect these teams to be better. The Angels, they're going to be better. I talked about the Royals last week. I think the Royals are going to be better. The Tigers are a young up-and-coming team. The Orioles almost squeaked into a playoff spot last year. It's a long time before this Rangers team is going to be any good. But yeah, they're probably going to finish last.
Yeah, it's rough.
There's not much else to say.
Yeah, there really isn't. So I wanted to move on from Texas Rangers because it's kind of a boring game to talk about. So Alex, I wanted to finish up with the American League West here, and just I want to get your thoughts on this the division as a whole. I think it's going to be kind of between three teams. But I want to know your opinion of it.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a competitive division within itself. I think the other two American League divisions are much better, and they are going to end up beating up on the American League West when they, play these teams. It definitely feels like it's kind of, I would say, three-headed monster, but I don't really think any of these teams are monsters. I don't really think any of them are actual World Series contenders. The Angels have a lot to prove. While we're doing that whole Shohei thing, I've figured out what they should do with him. They should have him be an opener. Not why save his arm. It's kind of like James's idea. Use him for 1 inning. Get the Tampa Bay, and they've been successful at it. Joe Madden used to manage the Tampa Bay Rays. It's all coming together. And then if they want, it's only an inning, and he can still DH later in the game if they really want him to.
Question.
Yes.
Openers aren't limited to just 1 inning. Like if they just rock that first inning, they can do 2 to 3. Correct.
Yeah, this is the opener thing is just a fake made up thing the Rays started doing. There's no like actual baseball rule against it. If you want, like you see it in spring training, you can have a different pitcher go every single inning if you want. There's no other than the three batter minimum rule now. That's the only thing. They have to face it minimum 3 batters.
Right.
That's it. So yeah. I mean, he could face the first 3, strike him out on 9 pitches, an
immaculate inning, really.
It could happen. You don't know.
Yeah.
Or he could face the first 3 batters, walk 2 of them, and give a 3-run bomb, which seems more likely.
Definitely did before.
Yeah. So I think, if anything going back to the AL West in general, there's a lot of interesting players. There's a lot of interesting storylines. I just think the other AL West or the AL divisions are better overall than this West.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So I will sum it up going around the horn, and I want to see everyone's final standings for the AL West. I've got the top 3 teams separated by 2 games. I think it's going to be really close. They're all going to beat up on each other, and as Alex mentioned, other teams in other leagues are going to beat up on them. So I actually have the Oakland A's winning this one with 90 wins. The Houston Astros will finish second with 89 wins, and the Angels will finish third with 88. But it can be any of those 3. I think it's going to be a really interesting division to watch. And then the Mariners will finish 4th, and the Rangers will finish 5th. So, Tradon, let's start with you. What's your final division standings?
Astros, Angels, A's, Mariners, Rangers.
James.
What Tradon said.
Copy paste. Eric.
Copy paste that as well.
God damn it. Alex, got anything different?
Yeah, I'm going to go different. I'm going. The Astros are going to win the division. I think those offensive players back bounce from a shitty year. So Astros, A's, Angels, Mariners, Rangers.
Gotcha. All right. And real quick to wrap it all up, the American League up in a nice little bow here. We're going to go around the horn one more time, and we're going to do the final playoff picture. So we're going to go our 3 division winners and plus 2 wild cards. So which 6 teams are going to represent the American League? Sorry, 5 teams are going to represent the American League in the postseason. So I'll start off. So to kind of recap my the division winners in the East, I got the Yankees. In the Central, I got the Twins. And in the West, I got the Oakland A's. And my first wild card spot will be the Chicago White Sox, and my second wild card spot will be the Toronto Blue Jays. So I'll go same order. Tradon, what do you got?
East Yankees, Central Twins, West Astros, wild card 1 Rays, and wild card 2 Indians.
James.
Astros, Twins, Blue Jays, Angels, and Yankees.
Eric.
East Yankees, Central Twins, West Astros, wild card 1 Angels, wild card 2 Blue Jays.
Wow, no White Sox.
Nah.
Yeah, you missed the Central, so I get it. Alex, what do you got?
East Yankees, Central White Sox, West Angels. Wild card 1 is the Twins. Wild card 2 the Blue Jays.
There you have it, folks. That is the American League. We'll be getting in the National League next week. Thanks, everyone, for chipping in your thoughts there. That was a good segment, especially with the Angels. Eric, that's all I got.
Yeah, America, fuck yeah, everybody. Baseball is coming back in 6 days. We can't wait. We love when sports return. I feel like every time a sport ends, like a sport has been coming back pretty fast. with all this COVID virus nonsense. We got one segment left of the night. When we return, last but not least, James, we'll be talking about the ultimate defensive NFL team. We're going to build that team for you guys and let you know who you should have on it. Last but not least, everybody got our football guy, James. It feels like football has been done for a while. I think it's only been like 2 weeks. But, we always got to talk football on here. We always talk defense wins championships. We built the ultimate offensive NFL team a couple weeks ago, and now James is going to have us build the ultimate defensive NFL team. Right, James?
Yeah, exactly. So the offensive team was cool, but we're trying to make a team that now stops that offense. Sounds like a pretty hard task, but I think we can do it. It'll be the same thing just like last time. It was taken very well regarded. A lot of arguments, a lot of heated debates. And we're going to try and come up with one player per position. We're going to start off with D-line today. Tradon, who you got?
I mean, I don't think we're going to argue about this one, are we?
Hope not.
I think we are.
Aaron Donald, dude. Duh. Let's. I'm not even going to get into his stats because I'm sure everyone else will. Let's look at this, okay? He had his worst season by PFF Pro Football Focus rank at 93. That was his worst, and he was still the best in the NFL. I'm done. Mic drop.
Tyler, who you got?
Yeah, Aaron Donald, man. I mean, this guy's the most dynamic, fun defensive player to watch in the NFL. He's an absolute beast. On top of all the stats and all that stuff, just watching the dude train, watching the dude get at it is just so exciting to watch. So got to go with Aaron Donald.
Alex?
Aaron Donald, baby. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He gets quadrupled team, James. He's the best player in the NFL, offense or defense. Aaron Donald.
Eric?
Got to go with AD. And I'm not talking about Anthony Davis. I'm talking about Aaron Donald, everybody. We've covered him. It's got to be Aaron Donald. Right, James?
Okay. Disagree. Food for thought. I lost this one, obviously, but food for thought real fast. Did you guys see JJ Watt's tweet at all about the TJ Watt versus Aaron Donald thing?
Mm-mm.
I saw the tweet about him taking a lot of time to order DoorDash. Does that count?
Yeah.
That does count.
That was the tweet.
DoorDash that was exactly the tweet I'm talking about. But honestly, though, DoorDash is, dude, there's so many options on there.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. But maybe one day. Better than freaking fresh filet or whatever Tyler uses.
HelloFresh.
Subway.
HelloFresh. There we go. Subway. Okay, anyway, rewind to the tweet. Aaron Donald won Defensive Player of the Year, and J.J. Watt made a good argument for why T.J. Watt should have won it. T.J. played in one less game than Aaron Donald this year, but still led the NFL in every major category. Tackles, T.J. had 53, Aaron Donald had 47. Sacks, T.J. had 15, Aaron Donald had 13. Tackles for loss, 12. Hits, 41-26. Pass deflection, 7-1. And interceptions, 1-0. He led the league in sacks this year with 15. Last year, he was fourth with 14.5. TJ Watt has a higher tackling grade than Aaron Donald does per PFF. TJ Watt only has 2 missed tackles, while Aaron Donald has 9 missed tackles. And Watt technically has more stops, and a stop is defined as a tackle or an assist that constitutes a failure for the offense. TJ Watt has 45, and then Aaron Donald has 22. So just food for thought. I know Aaron Donald's a monster. He's a beast. I agree that he should be on here, but, that gap between TJ and Aaron Donald isn't as big as you might think.
Yeah.
Just food for thought.
I definitely would agree with that, but I think we can all agree. We see Aaron Donald doubled and triple teamed against every offensive line in the NFL, and he still gets these stats. I mean, now if TJ Watt gets to that point, I don't know how young he is, so I'm sure that that gap is shrinking, like you say, and I don't think that's a bad take at all. But I think that we have to give some appreciation to the fact that he's facing the worst of the worst on the offensive line and still putting up these numbers too. So, but I think TJ Watt's is a very good,
huge good guy.
Huge good guy.
Huge good guy.
But see, TJ Watt, his name is not Aaron Donald. So Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is just a little bit better, but maybe he did have better stats than him this year. You just, educated me there.
What did you just say, Eric? Did you have
It was like that quote you said earlier about like the better, best, better bet thing. Yeah.
Nailed it. So good. Moving on to the linebacker. Tyler, who you got?
I got Devin White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this one was a tough one. There's a lot of good linebackers in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
I think you could have. I wouldn't be surprised if you all picked someone different. But kind of looking at all the stats, he seemed to be in the top 10 or so of kind of each one. So I don't think he led any particular stat this season, but he was consistently in most stats. And so I think as a whole and complete linebacker, I think Devin White for me takes the cake on this one.
Alex?
I'm going with Bobby Wagner of the Seattle Seahawks. Thank you. He has been one of the most elite linebackers in the last half decade. He's usually at the very top of tackles, in the season. He's led that Seahawks team, which that defensive team was terrible at the beginning of the season, and they really turned it around. Bobby Wagner's a beast. He flies all over the field. His football IQ is off the charts. I'm going to go Bobby Wagner.
He was a leader of that Legion of Boom team that was absolutely decimating teams back in the day. Him and Richard Sherman both. Sherman, Bobby Wagner, answer. Almost that team was insane. Eric, who you got?
I got Levante David from the Buccaneers.
For the Buccaneers.
Yeah, just because I feel like I saw him a lot in the Super Bowl, and they won, so he's pretty good.
Got big winners.
Yeah.
Tradon.
Well, I mean, Tyler, you're right. Everyone's different. I have Fred Warner. I think that he's done he's become a leader for a young 49ers defense. He was named first team All-Pro for the first time. And my biggest thing is one of my biggest things, I guess, is that he stayed healthy for 3 seasons in a row. He's played 16 games for 3 seasons in a row. You never see that. Oh, and by the way, you're playing against a team. You're playing on a team that saw some of the biggest injuries. On both sides of the ball, and he still managed to get 125 tackles, 79 solos, 2 interceptions, a sack. His age, he's young. He's had steady improvement, and he's taper as a leader. And what's also quite amazing is that Fred Warner has managed to maintain this consistency over the last 3 years, while changing a supporting cast around him. He's still able to do that, and he's still able to have that flexibility. He's able to stop the pass. He's tough enough to stop the run. I think he's my boy.
I agree with you, Tradon. I also said Fred Warner, and it's going to make me sound like a huge Niners fan. I am. I'm not going to deny that ever. But Fred Warner is one of the best linebackers this league has to offer. He was top 10 in tackles, like Tradon mentioned, with 125, but that's not what sets him apart. The biggest thing for me was that he was the best coverage linebacker that this NFL had this season. He was top 4 in yards allowed per reception with 7.5. For a linebacker who covers multiple people in one play, that's insane. He also only allowed 71% of completion percent when he was targeted. And that's the lowest among all linebackers who have played 800 or more snaps. 800 is kind of like that cutoff where like you're a star, you play 800 snaps kind of thing. And he also only missed 10 tackles all season long. That was the second lowest among all linebackers, second only to Bobby Wagner, who had 9. So the fact of the matter is, like, Bobby Wagner is a good linebacker. He makes stops. He makes the big tackles. But he's not that good in coverage. And this league nowadays is turning to a passing league. As much as I hate to say it, I love the running game. But linebackers have to cover. They have to cover a lot. The running backs now run out to the flat, and that's their responsibility. So the fact of the matter is the coverage linebackers are key. Did anybody switch their vote? Because right now we have Fred Warner at 2 and everybody else at 1.
I guess Fred Warner wins.
I'll
go with Fred Warner.
Yeah.
For all your info and education you just gave me on him. Guess he's pretty good.
What were you gonna say, Alex?
Yeah, I really don't want to agree with you, and I don't want to change my vote, but I will, because you nailed it. I still think Bobby Wagner is a better overall player, but now what NFL defensive teams need, and that's obviously very important. So I'm gonna also change my vote to Fred Warner.
No one liked my pick.
Oh, we got a clean pit.
Sorry, bud.
Shit.
Well, me and Tyler both had Buccaneers, guys. Just different player.
Eric and I pick winners.
I think Devin White had like maybe 20 missed tackles on the season, dude. He's not consistent. Like that's your one knock.
Well, shit.
Moving on to cornerback. I did. Cornerback, who you got, Alex?
Okay, I had a lot of trouble with this one. And you guys can tell me if this is a bad pick. But I'm going to go with Jair Alexander of the Green Bay Packers. They had kind of an, I would say, underwhelming overall defensive team, but he was an absolute monster out there. He was one of the best corners in the game in this season. He's also got a great name, so that has something to do with it as well. But I'm going with Alexander.
Eric, who you got?
I got our boy from the Rams, Jalen Ramsey.
Oh my God. Yo, Jalen Ramsey, you can't crack an NHL team over 6 months. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm still not over.
Yeah, we're talking football though, not hockey.
I'm not over that still.
He's probably better at football than he is hockey. I'm going to go with Jalen Ramsey.
Is that the only reason why?
No, ever since he did come to the Rams, they became the number one defense. So you got to give him credit where credit is due.
You remember when he shut down Devontae Adams? And Devontae Adams went for like
except
90
that
yards
one
on a
play
touchdown.
when he scored on him. But yeah.
You see it was quotation marks. He did not shut him down.
He shut down DK Metcalf at least. So that that gave him
baby. He shut down a big baby. Congratulations, dude. The dude wears a bib. And like
he'll learn from Devontae Adams. He'll come back stronger, better, faster next season.
Man, good thing I changed.
And he'll be on our team.
I had Jalen Ramsey at first, and then I kind of like changed a little research thing. I'm with.
Who you got?
I have Jair Alexander. Is that how you say it?
Jair, yeah, correct.
He's improved year over year. He's allowed completion percentage. His allowed completion percentage dropped to just below or just above 51 from like 53 and then 65 the year before. It's clear that he was a huge part of that, moving the Packers to 7th in pass defense. And he's only managed to allow only a 67.4 passer rating when targeted. That's pretty damn good. If you're a 67 passer rating quarterback, you're probably not in this league. So that's pretty damn incredible.
Tyler.
Xavier Howard of the Miami Dolphins. The dude led the league in interceptions. I mean, this seems pretty straightforward to me.
So the one problem I have with the interception fact is that a shutdown corner doesn't get targeted because they're doing so much and they're shutting down their opponent's wide receivers so much that the quarterbacks don't even look their way. People are testing Xavier Howard because they know he can be beat. So yeah, he has the most interceptions, but the fact of the matter is the quarterback's still throwing his way. That can't be a good sign.
Well, he's clearly not being beat because he leads the league in interceptions. So,
I mean,
and how many times do people caught against him? So yeah, he caught the ball 4 times, but the opponents probably caught it like 75.
To your point, James, Alexander alone saw 30 less targets year over year. That's clearly quarterbacks are realizing that he's not getting that. You don't want to throw the ball to him.
That's where Xavier Howard will be next year, shut down corner, because he led the league in interceptions this year. So he's projected.
So until rather than fact.
But kind of like Jalen Ramsey too. Like nobody throws near him to him. He shuts everybody down.
Except Jamal Adams.
Ramsey's all talk, man. Devontae Adams. I also have Jair Alexander. The one fact I want to add here is he became a true shutdown corner in my eyes when he played in the playoff game this last year. He allowed negative yards. He allowed 4 catches for negative yards. That's huge. Offenses realized they couldn't beat him down the field and they were afraid to throw his way, so they started running screens, but he still beat that anyway because he's that smart and that good. I think Jair Alexander wins this one. It's 3-1 to 1.
3-2. 1-1, yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Moving on to safety, Eric's favorite position of all time. Eric, who you got, man?
I have Budda Baker, safety from the Cardinals safety team history. But, I feel like he kind of showcased himself last year. I wish he would have scored a pick six on that play when DK Metcalf chased him down. But he's a guy that I saw running around all over the field last year. He seems to be, I think I've said this word 3 times already this podcast, a cornerstone of that Cardinals defense.
He's most definitely a cornerstone of that defense, being paid as much as he is. Tradon, who you got?
I got Minkah Fitzpatrick. 2 back-to-back fantastic seasons, recorded 2 back-to-back above 50 total tackles. It's pretty damn good. He's already seen a drop in targets year over year, which indicates that QBs are refraining from sending the ball his way. We said that last segment, or last player. He's managed to only allow a 65.74 passer rating when targeted. That's advanced stats, baby. I read advanced stats. That's huge. Yards allowed have continued to drop. The Steelers weren't ranked 3rd in pass.
Tyler.
Tyrann Mathieu, Kansas City Chiefs. This dude can do it all.
Except stop Tom Brady.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, that's recency bias for you. But yeah, Tyrann Mathieu, I think he's the full package. He can tackle. He can log it down. He can pick him if he needs to. He's an absolute playmaker. Tyrann Mathieu.
Alex.
Dude, Trade and I have been on the same wavelengths with these 2 segments of yours, James. I'm going Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. Since he got traded from the Dolphins, he has taken his game to another level. I really don't need to say much else. Traden pretty much nailed it. But yeah, he was one of the leaders on an elite Steelers defense.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys.
Yes, baby.
Fitzpatrick.
God,
I talked about him on our overrated, underrated series. I said Minkah Fitzpatrick was probably the most underrated NFL, along with Nick Chubb. But just to add to whatever you guys had said prior to that, for a safety, having more interceptions is a good thing. Mainly because safety plays in the back and have no specific responsibility. They're mostly covering a zone. So being able to go and run and find the ball and intercept the ball as a safety makes you look really good as opposed to a cornerback. On top of that, he did have 7 pass breakups, which led the league as well, which means he can get to one spot or the other. He's kind of the closest thing to Ed Reed that I've seen in a very long time. And that says a lot because Ed Reed was a damn good corner. Or not safety. Like, he's all over the place. He plays in the box. He plays the traditional safety role. He's all over the place. He's good. Huge fan of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Tyler, Eric, what do you guys think?
What I have learned from this segment is that I'm horrible at assessing defensive talent in the NFL. So, yeah.
I've learned that, James, you taught me well, bud.
Yeah, dude.
I think we'll have to go. My opinion. We're gonna have to go with Minkah Fitzpatrick. I remember just hearing his name a lot, also on TV this year.
Yeah, he was all over the place.
I mean, look at how bad he played against the Browns. I guess he did good in the season. Not too good in the playoffs, but you can't judge him off one game.
Here's the problem with defense. I think for me, as a more casual fan, is like I know offense more because of fantasy football, which you have individual players, right? And you'll learn more about their stats and kind of how those players go. But in at least ESPN fantasy, you pick a team, and it's just the team that is your defense. I would like to see a league that has individual players and you draft individual, like just like this, have 4 defensive players.
That's a thing, dude.
I think they have that.
Well, why are we doing it?
It's called IDP. Do you want to do it? I can change my league.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh God.
You don't want to do it.
So like the safety is going to be the first guy you draft.
As they get you
with
one
the number
point.
1 overall pick.
Number 1 overall pick. Minkah Fitzpatrick then.
Yeah.
Tyler, the one thing I want to tell you is just watch more football, dude. It's not that hard. They play 3 days out of the week.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
But I don't know. I guess I don't know.
But they don't have the ball in their hands. So like how
Fitzpatrick does because he's accepting everything.
James, next time we watch football together, I need to pick your brain on the defensive side because honestly, I feel like me watching football, unless they, make an interception or force a fumble, I don't pay attention to defense at all. So I think I need to get.
That's the beauty of the game, man.
I get that. clearly. But I honestly don't know. I really that's a weakness of mine when it comes to watching sports. So next football season, we're
Gotta
still
play
For a beer question.
what?
Yeah,
A beer
just play
question.
Madden and have
Beer
goal line
question?
defense every play, and that's how you learn about defense. Goal line defense every
definitely.
play. Guys go all out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna do this a year from now. I'm gonna be a lot better. That's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. We'll reference back.
Yeah.
Just to recap, our D line, we have Aaron Donald, linebacker is Fred Warner, cornerback is Jair Alexander, and our safety is Minka Fitzpatrick. Solid team.
Nasty defense.
I mean, I think that defense is pretty good. I think our offense would beat that defense. Maybe we could push it out to the fans. Who would win, our offense that we picked or our defense? Like, who's better? Who would you rather have? I'm going with the offense. Tyler's probably going with the offense.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. Thank you once again, James, for more football talk. It's good to talk about football, even though the season isn't going right now. I bet we'll be talking about the draft whenever that comes. When does that come, actually? Do you know?
Sometime in April.
Okay, so soon.
Sometime in April.
Yeah. Stick around, everybody, for that upcoming draft. You know, you don't want to miss any picks that we could have hidden for you, dark horses, etc. As we covered earlier, we wouldn't be here without the listeners and the fans and the supporters. We want to thank you guys all continuing to follow our Instagrams, podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We don't have Facebook, Tyler. And thank you, James, for running that Instagram account. You're doing tremendous on it.